He didn't say anything about Sean Young for 40 years. We now understand why. It was meant to be sweet when they were in Blade Runner together. In their place, they turned into a war. Ford didn't like how the plot changed. Young didn't like the plan. There was a lot of stress. The crew stayed away from them between takes. Ford had to leave the set of one scene altogether. The director said it was important. Ford got it wrong. Afterward, Young said something that altered how everyone saw the movie. This new statement from Ford shows that she was right. People say that tales are made, but Harrison Ford felt more like he was dragged through fire before anyone noticed. Born in Chicago on July 13, 1942, during the war he was a city full of life. The voice of his mother, Dorothy Nittleman, was so strong that it could fill a room. He had a father named Christopher Ford who worked in advertising, which required a lot of skill and power. But Ford's grandparents were the ones who really gave him grit. They had left Minsk, Belarus, because of the pogroms there, bringing their Jewish roots and strong will to survive to the United States. Growing up, Harrison's family was known for being quiet and tough. This set the tone for his life before he ever performed on stage. But Ford wasn't the sure of himself star in school that you'd think. He was so shy at Maine Township High School East that he was almost unseen in the halls. He had such bad social anxiety that it was hard for him to even speak in class. His only reason for taking theater class was to change, not because he loved playing. In secret, it was therapy. He could wear someone else's skin for a while on stage. The mask slowly made him braver. He called himself a late bloomer in the end, but those early steps toward confidence would follow him through all of his roles. He also didn't do well in school. He never got a grade above a C. There were no awards, shirts, or stories in the school papers. Ford was not standing out while other people got awards for their yearbooks. While he didn't have great grades or a lot of friends, his quiet determination more than made up for it. The kind of hard drive that stays lit at night when no one is looking but doesn't show up on your report card. He went to Ripon College in Wisconsin after high school, hoping that something would click. It did, but not how anyone thought it would. Just for fun, he took a theater class and found that he liked it. He found that acting didn't just help him deal with things anymore. It gave him a goal. He tried new things, found himself, and performed in plays on college. However, he still didn't feel at home in a school setting. This is why he dropped out before finishing. There was no backup plan. They were sure that there was something more waiting for them beyond the books and classes. He wasn't the only one who jumped. He married his childhood sweetheart, Mary Marquardt, in 1964. She had faith in him as well as love for him. When they moved to Los Angeles, Harrison looked for acting jobs while Mary worked as a teacher to make ends meet. Even though he kept getting turned down, Mary stood by him and cheered him on when other people told him to give up. He might not have had a job at all in the beginning without her. At least on paper, things looked like they were getting better in 1966. Ford got a job with Columbia Pictures, but it wasn't good because he only made $150 a week. That's not even enough to get by today, let alone with a family in Los Angeles in the 1960s. No one even knew who he was in most of the movies because they were so small. He rode a merry-go-round in movies like Dead Heat. But if you blink, you might miss him. It wasn't acting, it was ghost work. Then he was insulted, which almost broke him. When he had a bad showing, director Jerry Tarkovsky told him straight out, "Kid, you'll never be a movie star." He said Ford was like Tony Curtis, who was smooth and attractive, and said Ford wasn't like that. It hurt to get poked. Ford lost all faith after hearing it in public. It wasn't just mean, it was public. Ford didn't always hold his tongue though. When he was given yet another meaningless role, rumored to be a delivery boy, he lost it all in an explosive moment. "I thought that was going to be a delivery boy." He shot back. He was fired right away. The word got around quickly. All of a sudden, Ford couldn't get any work. He was on a secret ban. Not a single tryout or return. There was only silence. By the end of the 1960s, Ford could only get small roles on TV shows like Gunsmoke and The Virginian. Not any lines. There were no names, just cowboy hats and dust. He was doing strange things behind the scenes to make sure there was food on the table. Jobs as a carpenter now and then. The dream of living in Hollywood was quickly fading away. He stood up and walked away. There was no big exit, just a quiet giving up. It looked like he wasn't meant to be an actor. He got a hammer and taught himself how to build things. After one job, there was another one. As time went on, he started putting up recording booths. One was worth $100,000 to the Brazilian star Sergio Mendes. In a strange way, this hands-on work brought him back into the spotlight. But not as an actress yet. He worked on a door one day at the home of the famous director Francis Ford Coppola. While he polished and drilled, casting director Fred Roos was there by chance. Roos saw something in Ford, not just his hands but also his face and the way he moved. He suggested something that would change the past of movies in a quiet way. You could try out for a part in George Lucas's new movie. Ford didn't get a lead role, but he did get the part of Bob Falfe in American Graffiti, 1973, a rude speed driver with a cool car. People noticed how cocky Ford was in a small role that wasn't very important. The movie only cost $777,000. That's not much money in Hollywood, but it made over $200 million around the world. All of a sudden, the handyman who went into a house with a hammer got his big break in Hollywood. George Lucas didn't just notice him because of that one part. He also learned more about Coppola's world. After American Graffiti, Coppola started to hire Ford for roles other than building things. Ford played a cold and mysterious manager in the 1974 movie The Conversation. Even though it wasn't a big part, he was in an important movie that won the Grand Prix at Cannes and was nominated for 3 Oscars. After 5 years, Ford had one more small part. In the 1979 movie Apocalypse Now, as Colonel Lucas, the officer who gives out missions. The name was a joke among the actors, but the scene was short. The character was named after George Lucas, who was meant to direct the movie at first. With no fame to his name, Ford was now slowly making his way into some of the most important movies of the decade. But George Lucas didn't want to cast Star Wars right away. He didn't want to use the same faces all the time. Ford had been used twice already. He said it out loud. I didn't want to follow in the footsteps of Scorsese and De Niro. Lucas was looking for something new. He didn't offer Ford the part of Han Solo though. Instead, he asked him to help with hiring and read lines with other players. That's when something strange took place. As Ford read scene after scene to a group of worried young readers, explaining the complicated story, his reading voice began to shine. It was very easy. He got the beat, the wit, and the irony. Luke slowly became aware of what was in front of him. He knew where Han Solo was already. Even so, the company didn't really throw open the red carpet. Ford only got $10,000 for Star Wars, about $2,000 every week. That's it. There is no back-end deal, no extra cash, no share of the money made at the box office. He wasn't given a cut of the profits because no one thought the movie would be so successful, but Ford believed in the plot. It paid off that he took the chance. Star Wars blew up when it came out in theaters in May 1977. It became one of the most successful movies of all time. It made more than $775 million around the world during its first run. Ford as Han Solo was the star of the show. People loved him because he was cocky, funny, and smart. The smuggler with the wit became a culture hero very quickly. People said it was a great sci-fi work. But Blade Runner was more of a danger for Harrison Ford than a win. He was already a big star when he got to the set. But none of that got him ready for what came next. It rained a lot, felt crowded, and was thick with smoke. It was no longer playing, it took grit. Ford would say later that it was a long, hard slog and that he was very unhappy. It wasn't just the weather that made them unhappy. Everything was a fight behind the scenes. The voiceovers hurt the most. Ford was told that the movie would speak through its mood and images, but after bad tests showing, the company lost it. Someone he didn't know wrote for them. He was told to read audio lines that made everything too clear. There are 5 or 6 types, and each one is worse than the last. They made him mad. He hated them so much that he read them flat on purpose, hoping that the studio would throw the whole thing out. They didn't though. Still they used it. After many years, Ford said, I had to work for these jerks. And the anger never really went away. Then there was Ridley Scott, who was a great director. But their views hit each other hard. Scott thought that Deckard, Ford's character, was a replicant or machine. Ford was very against it. He thought Deckard had to be a real person. Or the story stopped making sense. It was more than just an argument. There was war. Even decades later, they still fought all the time. In 2017, when they were making the movie, director Denis Villeneuve had to separate them at times. He said that when they do, they start to talk very loudly. If it wasn't so important to them, you might laugh at it. The stress was more than just artistic. When Blade Runner came out, it did not do well at all. It opened with only $6 million, even though it cost $30 million to make. That's about $100 million now. Most said it was because of the scary story and the bad timing. It was going up against E.T. Ford had a different idea though. He thought that emotionally people just couldn't connect. They didn't understand who he was. The voiceover didn't make things better. They even made the movie have a cheesy happy finish. Deckard and Rachel are on their way into a beautiful forest. It didn't go with what had come before. Ford and the people who saw it hated it. It didn't feel real. Things didn't end there though. Ford's bad mood with his co-star Sean Young made things worse. He was serious and followed a plan. She was younger, had less experience, and was said to be unreliable on set. Those fights got worse during the hardest scenes. The scene where Deckard and Rachel are in love turned into something much darker. It was funny to shoot. It was cold and forced. The crew called it the hate scene. During shooting, Scott changed the tone and made it more angry. Young later said it was Scott's way of getting back at him for turning him down off set. Ford was already angry, and he thought everything was wrong. It didn't match how he saw Deckard. It didn't seem real. It was almost like Tom Selleck was Indiana Jones. In 1980, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas chose him first. He sought the part. Everything was in order. But there was something wrong. CBS wouldn't let him go after shooting the pilot for Magnum P.I. The network wouldn't let Spielberg and Lucas change the shooting plan, even though they tried. After the fact, Selleck said, "I was offered the part and I wanted it. But the deal stopped him." The job fell away. After being in a mess for a month, Harrison Ford stepped in. They didn't pick him first. He also knew it. Ford said that the job was with Tom Selleck. "I was picked second. He is one of the biggest action stars of all time, and his real life has been just as exciting as his movies. Because he won't let trick doubles do the dangerous work for him, he's broken bones, been in crashes, and pushed his body to its limits." In the beginning of his work, Ford hurt a disc in his back while shooting Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom 1984. He spent so much time riding elephants that it hurt. He had to get surgery in the US, so a stand-in did his parts while he was away. He was hurt in more ways than one. He tore his ACL and hurt his lungs when he was pulled behind a truck in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He limped through most of The Fugitive because he had hurt ligaments. He kept going even when he was 70 years old. When he was practicing a fight scene for Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny 2023, he hurt his shoulder and had to wear a sling. Ford always laughs and says, "It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage." But his body has been hurt. It seems like he's been hurt in almost every way, from skiing to horseback riding. Then, on set in 2014, he almost died. While making Star Wars: The Force Awakens, he was hit by a big hydraulic door on the Millennium Falcon set. It broke his leg, threw off his ankle, and cut open his hand. He was taken to the hospital by helicopter, and work stopped for 8 weeks. The door was like a blunt guillotine to the police, who said it could have killed him if it hit him in the head or chest. Because the company didn't follow safety rules, they got a fine and the door was replaced with CGI. Ford wasn't going to let that stop him. His response when someone tried to help him get off a horse on the next Indiana Jones set was, "Leave me the fuck alone, I'm an old man." He's always been tough, stubborn, and strongly independent like that. But Ford doesn't just take risks on movie sets. He also loves flying, and some of his flights have been just as exciting. During training in 1999, he crashed a chopper. His WWI-era plane lost power in 2015, so he had to land on a golf course. He hurt his hip and ankle, but he stayed calm and flew the plane away from homes. His flights didn't always go well. He flew right over a passenger jet in 2017 when he landed on the wrong runway. He crossed a busy airport in 2020 while another plane was coming in. The FAA looked into both times, and Ford admitted that he was wrong. Still, his flying saved lives some of the time. In 2000, he used his airplane to help a hiker who was lost in Idaho. It wasn't until she was safe that she realized it was him. Ford's private life has had its ups and downs. He slept with Carrie Fisher during Star Wars in the late 1970s, even though he was married at the time. After many years, she wrote about it in her autobiography and called it a 3-month one-night stand. Ford never said no, but he kept quiet about it. He's been married 3 times. Before 1979, he was married to someone else for 15 years. The second marriage he had, to screenwriter Melissa Matheson, went until 2004. It ended in an expensive divorce because they didn't have a prenup. Then in 2002, he met actress Callista Flockhart at the Golden Globes. He spilled wine on her dress by mistake. They got married in 2010 after being together for 22 years, even though they are 22 years apart in age. Ford loved her adopted son Liam like he was his own. Ford doesn't like talking about Star Wars at all. He avoids questions or makes sarcastic jokes in talks. Toy Han Solo was thrown across the room by him one time while he was live on TV. He thought that Han dying in the movies would make the story better. He finally got what he wanted in The Force Awakens when Han was killed by Kylo Ren, his own son. Now that he is 82, Ford hasn't changed. Because of an accident on set, most of his teeth are fake. He still makes movies, does his own stunts, and gets hurt. There have been many ups and downs in his life, but he wouldn't have it any other way.